So, I mean, liquidation preference is attached to the particular share class that you're issuing out for the raise. Those that have a liquidation preference get their money back first. So if you exit, sometimes it's only on winding up, but typically those preference rights give the investor the ability to pull their money out before anyone else gets paid. Obviously, you've got tax bills or employment sort of obligations around superannuation and employment pay that by government, by legislation has to go first, but then the next person to take their dip is going to be the investor, which sadly means that the founders come last and either get cents on the dollar or sadly nothing at all. Obviously, that's on a winding up. On an exit, it just means that the investor will pull their investment out as the first, the preferential holder, and then all the ordinary shareholders, of which typically that's the founders, will then get to take their percentage of what's left. Participating is a double dip. So to be simple, I mean, participating means that not only do they get to pull their funds out, but then their preference shares convert into ordinary shares, and then they get their respective proportion of the sale price as well during the exit. So they'll get, if I invest $500,000, I'll get my $500,000 back, and then I'll get whatever my 5 or 10% of the equity represents as part of the total sale price of the company. So I get a nice party kicker, which means that I cover all of my risk.
That's nice.
Yeah, and then non-participating obviously means that I don't get the double dip. I just get to make a choice between I convert or I take whatever the value of the preference shares are at the time. Participating liquidation preferences is something that we try and push back on behalf of founders. Sometimes it's unavoidable. I had a conversation with a founder the other day who had completed a previous round with another firm, and I asked about the participating nature of the preference shares, and she said, look, I had a choice between giving them a board seat or giving them participation rights with their shares, and she decided that she would rather keep the board seat and not have them sit on the board, and therefore she gave them the participating rights. But typically we try and push back on, and I know we'll talk about it in a second, but we push back on anti-dilution where we can and push back on participating liquidation preference.